Miguel Cardona from the Goalsetter organization. We are truly blessed.
Well, thank you for that, Principal McFarland. Again, everyone, my name is Miguel Cardona, and I manage partnerships at Goalsetter. Couldn't be happier than to be here with you all today. You are in for a treat. This will be an engaging and interactive session with our founder and CEO, Tanya Van Court. So again, I invite you all to turn on your cameras, be engaged, ask questions. And again, just one more reminder that we are recording for the rest of the Parkway family who's not in attendance here today. So without further ado, Tanya Van Court.
I just need to be able to share my screen. Okay. Okay. Hola, me llamo Tania y hoy vamos a hablar sobre el mundo de instrumentos financieros, incluyendo los IRAs y tarjetas de créditos y más cosas. How many of you understood what I just said? Maybe one, maybe two, maybe Miguel Cardona. But most of you probably did not understand what I just said. And you would probably think I was a little bit crazy if I were going to give this entire presentation in Spanish, which is a language that most of you don't know or aren't fluent in. But guess what? That's exactly what America is doing to you and all of our children every single day. But they're not doing it in the language of Spanish or French or Italian. They're doing it in the language of money, which I would argue is just as important as knowing English in this country if you are going to be financially successful. So the language of money includes things like 401k, 529, stocks, bonds, compound interest, asset allocation, diversification, stock market, FICO score, APR and APY. How many of you do you think that you could define all of those terms right now? Raise your hand if you could define all of those terms. And if you look around, guess what? Most of the adults in our country can't even define all of these terms. And it doesn't mean that they're not smart. It just means that they were never taught. And so what's important about financial language is that just like any other language, we have to be taught in order to learn the language. But don't worry, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to teach you some of these financial terms, some of the most important financial terms, because language absolutely matters. And so you've got to learn the language of money if any of you wants to be financially successful. And if you say, oh, money isn't that important to me, guess what? Money is important to do lots of things. It's important to have your own business if you want it, or have a home for your family, or give away to charity if you want it. So no matter what dreams you have in life, many of those dreams are going to take money in order for them to come true. And so today we are going to define many terms for you, but we're not going to do it in boring ways. We're going to do it in ways that are fun and interesting. And in fact, the way that we're going to do it most often is through stories. And I'm going to start with my own story. I grew up in Oakland, California. This was my mom. And my mom was an elementary school teacher in the Oakland public schools. And so this is my mom and my sister. I'm sure you guys can probably tell which one is me. And my mom was not just an elementary school teacher. She was a brilliant, brilliant person. She had a master's degree in education. She brought home more kids on the weekends and was completely committed to her school. And my mom taught me a lot of things. But guess what? The one thing she didn't teach me about was money, because she didn't know anything about money. And so here you have this brilliant woman who didn't know anything about money, so she didn't teach her kids anything about money. And so by the time I got to college and I went to Stanford and I graduated with 2 degrees in engineering, everyone said, wow, that Tanya, she really is smart. And then I was in my late 20s and I worked at a company in Silicon Valley. And that company gave me more than $1 million in stock and stock options. And so you would have thought, wow, Tanya, you were in your late 20s. You got $1 million in stock and stock options. You were set for the rest of your life. But guess what? I didn't know what a stock was. I certainly didn't know what a stock option was because no one had ever taught me. And so because I didn't know any of those things, I just left the stock sitting there. And in 2001, there was a big technology bubble that burst, a big stock market burst, and all of the technology stocks took a slide. And my stock, my one stock that I had that a whole $1 million invested in, took a slide too. And in a matter of hours, I went from having over $1 million to a few $1,000s in the matter of hours. And that was because I didn't understand anything about the language of money. And so I vowed on that day that I could not turn back the hands of time, but I could make sure that it didn't happen to my own kids. And by extension, I can make sure that it doesn't ever happen to all of you who are on this call. So I'm going to ask you to lean in, because the things that I teach you today are going to save your financial life again and again and again if you just stick with me for this 1 hour. So that was my story. But the other story we're going to talk about today is the story of Jay-Z. And why are we talking about the story of Jay-Z? Because Jay-Z is a billionaire with a B, not an M, with a B. And you know what that means? That means that Jay-Z has the blueprint, pun intended, because yes, he had an album named Blueprint, for those of y'all who don't know. So Jay-Z has created the blueprint for how to build wealth. And we're going to take his blueprint and teach you his blueprint today, because everything that he did, you too can do. And that means that not only can you be a millionaire one day, you too can be a billionaire. And we're going to teach you how. So let's go. The first part is skills. Chapter 1 is all about skills. And what does Jay-Z tell us in his lyrics about skills? Jay-Z says, "We all fish, better teach your folk. Give him money to eat. The next week he's broke." Can somebody tell me what Jay means by these lyrics? Come on, anybody. Go ahead.
I'm guessing he means that, as soon as we get money or a lot of money at once, we all blow it on stuff we don't need or don't really need at all, and just blow it all away. And then we look back and we're like, now I'm broke because I spent it all on stuff that I don't need.
That is such a good interpretation. And so he does say, we spend all of our money. And if you spend money and you don't have a way to make money, then what happens? You're what? Broke, right? That's right. So what Jay-Z is saying is we all fish. That means we all have to work for a living. We all have to fish to bring food onto our tables. Better teach your folk means you better teach your people how to fish. You better teach them how to make money, because if you just give them money to eat and don't teach them how to fish and make their own money, the next week what will happen? They will have spent that money and not known how to make more money, and they will be broke. So what Jay-Z is talking about here is skills. So what's your skill? And I guarantee you, every one of you has one. And even if you don't have one today that you think can make money, you have one that you can build upon that can make money in the future. So this young man, his name is Mosiah Bridges. Mosiah, when he was a teenager, 13 years old, decided that he really liked making bow ties. And so Mosiah made bow ties in his grandmother's living room. And he made bow ties so well that not only did he start to sell lots of bow ties out of grandma's living room, but then he inked a deal with the NBA to make bow ties that were customized for every NBA team. And he inked a deal with Nordstrom to distribute his bow ties and sell them through Nordstrom. And because Mosiah had the skill of making bow ties, he could turn his skill into a business. And Mosiah is now worth $1 million from his bow tie making business, y'all. Number 2, let's go all the way over to the right. Who's heard of Wonder Girl? Give me a thumbs up in your window if you've heard of Wonder Girl. And by the way, if I can't see you, I might be more prone to call on you. So Sierra, Talia, Washington, I'm going to be calling on you. So tell me, somebody, do you know who Wonder Girl is? Give me a thumbs up if you know who Wonder Girl is. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you know who Drake is. Why am I not seeing any thumbs ups in the windows? Where are my thumbs up? Because I know you guys know who Drake is. Okay, well, I'm going to assume, I'm telling you, I'm calling on somebody soon. So I'm going to assume, oh, I saw it. Okay, Jamie, you get Jamie. Jamie gave me a thumbs up. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so Wonder Girl is the producer for Drake. She helps him to make all of his records. So while Wonder Girl can't rap like Drake can, Wonder Girl is amazing at spinning records and being a producer. And so her skill makes her worth $6 million. And I'm sorry, I already pressed the button on this third one, but the guy in the middle is a guy named Ryan Friedlinghouse. Ryan Friedlinghouse really liked fixing up cars. And so he took that skill of fixing up cars and he actually started his own company called West Coast Customs, where he takes in the stars cars like Snoop and Dr. Dre and everybody else who lives in LA, and he gives them customized cars. And because of this business, Ryan Friedlinghouse is worth $20 million. And so you see, each of these people had a skill, something that they really liked to do. And it didn't matter what their skill was. What mattered was they pursued their skill and became excellent at it so that they could figure out how to make money from that skill. And that's what each of you will do too. So why is developing a skill so important? There are two reasons, and I marked them both as number one because they are equally important. Number one, having a skill gives you money. You earn money by virtue of the fact that you have a skill that can make money. But the second reason, which again is equally important, is that it gives you expertise. So even if somebody isn't paying you today to hone a skill, you honing that skill will give you expertise so that you can actually own your own business one day if you get really good at something. Mosiah Bridges owned his own bow tie making business. Wonder Girl owned her own business of producing records, and Ryan Friedlinghouse owned his own business of developing and making cars really fun and customized for their particular owners. So having a skill gives you money, but it also gives you expertise so that you don't have to work for somebody forever because you have a skill and can go out on your own to do whatever you have learned in your skill. So we're going to play a little game for a second of how much do these jobs make, because each one of these people in their job has to have a skill. So a software engineer, who wants to guess with me? How much does a software engineer make? Shantae, what do you think?
Probably over, I would say maybe 100,000.
100,000, very good, Shantae. $104,000, really good. Why does it make so much? Because software engineers are in high demand. We need to hire software engineers for our company right now. And lots of companies in this technology world that we live in need software engineers. Software engineers are needed for Fortnite, for Apple, for every single technology product, for every app that you use. All of those companies need software engineers. So it's in high demand, and a skill that's in high demand will pay more. They also require, if you are a software engineer, you need to go to school. You need to go to school to learn how to code. And something that requires more school typically is a higher level skill that will pay more. Firefighter. Anybody want to give me a guess about how much a firefighter makes?
I would say maybe like 40 to 60,000.
40 to 60,000. Well, surprise, surprise, $100,000. Why is that? Because being a firefighter is a really dangerous job. And that danger means that it does require additional skill. My brother-in-law is actually a firefighter. He's a fire chief in San Francisco, California, and he makes exceptionally more than this $100,000 because it is such an important and such a dangerous job. An electrician, $52,000, because electricians, you don't have to go to a school for a long time to become an electrician. So it requires less skill and less education. The less skill a job requires, the less money that job will typically make. A sports agent, somebody give me a guess on sports agent. I'm gonna ask Jaleesa. Jaleesa, how much do you think a sports agent makes? Jaleesa, okay, we're gonna say Darren Carpenter. How much does a sports agent make?
I'm actually a parent. I'm not sure if you really want to ask me.
Darren, who you there with? Do you have a kid there with you?
I do. My son DJ there. So DJ Carpenter's somewhere. He can try to answer.
All right, DJ, let's go. How much you think a sports agent makes, DJ?
DJ is not on, Darren.
Okay, that's okay. Darren, you're gonna have to guess on behalf of DJ. How much does a sports agent make?
Ah, man, that's a complicated question.
I
I would
know.
say anywhere between,
Nope, you got to give me one
5%,
number.
5% of what they sign.
Give me one number.
I'd say, let's say $450,000.
Sports agents make $62,000 on average per year. You're thinking about LeBron's agent. What I want these kids to understand is there is only one LeBron in the NBA. There are 450 players in the NBA, but there's only one LeBron. And then there are baseball teams and hockey teams and soccer teams. The average soccer player makes about $30,000 a year. Their sports agents are not making much money at all. So the interesting thing about being a sports agent is you're going to make a lot of money if you're in the few that are the top tier athletes, but if you're not representing a top tier athlete, you're not making much. Manager makes on average $46,000 a year. And why does the McDonald's manager only make $46,000? Because you don't have to have as much skill to become a McDonald's manager as to become, for an example, a software engineer. A fashion buyer is a person who works at like Foot Locker and says, hey, I want to buy clothes based on what I think the hottest trends are going to be. And a fashion buyer actually makes $96,000 a year, because whether or not they are right is really important to Foot Locker, and whether or not Foot Locker is making a lot of money. If you chose the sneakers that were not hot this year, they're not making a lot of money. If you chose the hot sneakers, they're making a lot of money. Robotics engineer, $88,000 a year. I think this is actually higher now than when I pulled these numbers. An architect, $76,000 a year. So that's a pretty good living as well. A nurse, $71,000 a year. And this is probably even more post-COVID because they're in such demand. And a financial manager is someone who manages other people's money. And so this does not have to be a person who manages LeBron's money. There are plenty of people in this country, executives who work at Pepsi and Nike and Bank of America, and they all have financial managers for the most part. And so a financial manager is someone who can manage their money, make them more money, and help their money to grow. And they make $126,000 a year. So what's the point of this slide? The point of this slide is that no matter what your skills are, you will make some kind of money, but you've got to figure out how much money based on how in demand your skills are in this country. And the higher level your skills are, meaning the more education they require, the more in demand those skills are, the more money you'll make. If you have no skills, you're going to make less money. I can go outside in my house in Brooklyn and probably find about 10 people on my block who could be a McDonald's manager today because of the lower level skill that requires. And they would have to learn it, but they would be able to learn it. I can't go out on my block, including in my own home, and find anyone who's a neurosurgeon and can operate on a brain today. So that's a higher level of skill, and that's going to make more money. So we got to remember, the higher level of the skill, the more in demand the job is, the more money you'll make. So in some US cities, tech jobs actually pay more than twice as much as the average salary. In Syracuse, New York, the average salary is $62,000. The average tech salary is $54,000 more than that, or $117,000. In Dayton, Ohio, the average salary is $52,000. The average tech salary is more than double that, more than $63,000 more, which is $116,000. So if any of you or your kids, if any of the kids on the line really like tech is a great place to be right now because it has great salaries. And again, in some places, almost twice as much as other places. So chapter 1 was skills. We have to have skills in order to make money. But chapter 2 is saving. And let's see what Jay-Z says about this. I bought every V12 engine, wish I could take it back to the beginning. Can somebody translate for me what Jay means about this?
Instead of saving his money, again, he had a lot of money and blew it on something he really doesn't need.
Very good. I love that. That's right. And guess what? How many of us can look back and say, you know what? Maybe I had one too many pairs of sneakers last year that I really didn't need or really didn't wear. Maybe I had an extra jacket that I really didn't need. I think we can all think about times and ways that we blew money. Jay-Z is a billionaire and he's still looking back on his life saying, dang, why did I waste that money that I shouldn't have wasted? And guess what? That's how people become millionaires and billionaires. They become millionaires and billionaires by realizing that they don't need to waste money. They would prefer to save that money or invest it instead. So what does saving even mean? Well, I can give you fancy definitions of saving: an economy of or reduction in money, time, or other official resources, or the money one has saved, especially through a bank or official scheme. But I don't need to give you those fancy definitions, because basically saving is not spending. Or as my grandmother used to say, Tanya, don't let that money burn a hole in your pocket. So she would say that to me because the minute I got money, I wanted to spend it. And she said, money doesn't need to leave your pocket the second that it goes in there. Save your money instead. And I said, well, look, Grandmommy, I don't need to learn about saving or budgeting my money or not spending my money, because when I grow up, I'm going to be rich. And when I'm rich, I can spend as much money as I want, because rich people can spend as much money as they want. And she told me that I was wrong. What do you think? Who thinks I was right? And who thinks my grandmother was right? If you think I was right, let me hear from you. Was I right? When you're rich, you can spend as much money as you want, right?
No, that's absolutely false.
What? That's false?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's see. I think these three men would agree with you. That is false. Who knows who these men are? Anybody? Come on. Somebody knows who one of these men is.
Mike
I'll give
Tyson.
you. What was that?
Mike Tyson and MC Hammer.
Mike Tyson over to the right, MC Hammer in the middle, and Johnny Depp to the left.
That is Johnny Depp. Okay.
That is Johnny Depp. And guess what? They all thought the same thing that I thought, that it doesn't matter how much money, I have so much money that I can spend as much as I want. And so the three things, the thing that these three men have in common is that they were all rich and they all declared bankruptcy. So Johnny Depp spent tens of thousands of dollars every year on wine alone, and then spent hundreds of thousands more on just living a lavish lifestyle. He ended up $20 million in debt and declaring bankruptcy. MC Hammer thought that it wasn't enough for him to have one helicopter, and so he bought two. And even though he's a native of Oakland, California, and I'm a native of Oakland, I would not have had gates around my home that were covered in gold as Mr. Hammer did. And so MC Hammer ended up $13 million in debt. And Mike Tyson thought that a cat or a dog was not good enough as his pet. And so he bought things like Siberian tigers. I think that we can all agree that these are things that neither Johnny Depp nor MC Hammer nor Mike Tyson needed in their lives. But they spent all of the money that they made, and spent so much that they ended up millions of dollars in debt. And so saving is important. It doesn't matter how much you make, you have to save. And if you save, you will find that you have so much money, even if you're only saving a little. So let me give you an example. Let's say you each save $5 a day, right? $5 a day in 1 year is $1,825 saved just from $5 a day. And I know that in my neighborhood, if my kids walk around my neighborhood and say, can I sweep your front lawn? They will absolutely get someone to pay them $5 a day. So $1,800 in a year, $9,000 in just 5 years, and $18,000 in 10 years. That's enough where you could actually start your own business with $18,000. You could, when you get out of college, team up with some of your other college friends and buy a property. Use that as a down payment on your first property. There are lots of things that you can do with $18,000, which is just $5 a day. And so, now I want to talk about saving and what makes some saving better than other saving. Well, all saving is good saving, right? Anything that you can save, that's a good thing. But some saving is great saving. And so I want to talk a little bit about interest rates for a second. Who knows what an interest rate is? Can anyone tell me what interest rates mean?
Like the longer you take to pay something off, the more interest gets built up, and the more you got to pay back.
There you go. That's right. So I'll give you this example. My daughter likes to borrow money from me. Her name is Gabrielle, and she's 15 years old. And she's like, Mommy, can I borrow $10? And I'm like, yeah, you can borrow $10, but I'm gonna charge you 10% interest every week. And she's like, Mommy, no, not interest. I'm like, yes, interest, because that's the way the real world works. So when my daughter Gabrielle borrows $10 from me, after the first week, when she hasn't paid me back, she owes me 10% of that $10. So she owes me $11. But after the second week, she comes and she says, Mommy, I don't have it. I'm sorry. I got to go another week. So after the second week, she owes me 10% now, not just of the $10, but of the $11. So now she owes me an extra $1.10. So after 2 weeks, Gabrielle owes me $12.10. And after the third week, she owes me 10% of what? What does she owe me? 10% of what?
The 10% of the $10, 10% of the $11, and then the what's the third one? $12.50.
The $12.10. Right. So she owes me 10% of the whole $12.10, right? Because that's the total amount she owes me now. So now she owes me 10% of that total amount, $12.10. So that's another $1.20. Now imagine that this is $100 I loan to her, or $1,000 I loan to her, and I'm charging her interest every single time period. Is this good for Gabrielle, who borrowed money from me, or bad for her, y'all?
Bad.
Huh?
Bad.
It is bad, right? Because this is what compound interest means. The interest just keeps growing and growing and growing every period that she hasn't paid me back. And is this interest good for me or bad for me?
It's good for you. You earning all her money.
I am earning all her money. It is so good for me. I'm like, oh yeah, no, you have to pay me back this week. Don't worry about it. Pay me back next week, right? And that's the exact same scenario when it comes to you saving. So if you put your money into a bank account, you are basically loaning the bank that money. And when you loan the bank that money, the bank has to pay you interest on that money. And so, you know, Miguel and I talk about this sometimes, and Miguel's like, hey, I like that. I'm going to go get interest at my local bank. I'm going to get 2% interest in a savings account. Now, I have to tell you guys, if you try to go get 2% interest in a savings account today, everyone will laugh at you, because savings accounts are only giving about 0.5% of interest today. So this is a fake scenario for today, but it was real 2 years ago. So we're just going to pretend like we're 2 years ago, okay? So Miguel's like, yeah, I want to get interest. So I'm going to put $100,000 in a savings account at 2% interest. Now, let me tell you, Layla is like, oh, wow, you're getting 2% interest at your local bank. There's another bank that's like a mile down, and I think they give 2.5% interest. I'm going to walk down there and get that. Do we think that that walk is worth it for Layla to do or not? What do you guys think? 2.5% Layla's going to get if she walks a mile. Miguel's going to get 2% across the street. Is that worth it for Layla to walk down the street a mile?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay, well, let's see. So Miguel, let's see what my friend is going to get. After a year, Miguel's going to have $102,000 because he put $100,000 in that savings account. And after 5 years, he's going to have $110,000. And after 10 years, he's going to have $121,000 just off of a little 2% interest. And let's see what Layla's going to have, because she walked a mile down the street. So Layla went a mile down the street and she went to a bank there, and a bank said they would give her a bond. Now, don't get all like, oh no, financial language, I don't know, because it's really not that important. Basically, a bond is kind of like a savings account, but they don't give you they don't readily give you access to your money. They hold your money for a longer time, and that's why they give you a larger interest rate for your money. So Layla went down the street. She walked a whole mile to get her bond. That was 2.5% interest, right? After a year, Layla has $102,520. After 5 years, Layla has $113,000. After 10 years, she has $128,000 compared to Miguel's $121,000. Was Layla's 1 mile walk worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now let's see. Talia said, well, you know what? I'm gonna walk 2 miles because I know there's something called a CD, or a certificate of deposit, that I can get at another bank that's 2 miles away. Now, again, don't let any of this make you feel like, I don't know these terms, and don't ever let a bank make you feel that way. A CD is nothing but a different financial investment vehicle or a savings vehicle that you can put your money into. Again, it will take longer for you to access your money. So you can't just run down and take some money out because you decided you wanted a new pair of sneakers. You have to leave your money in there for longer, but they give you a higher interest rate. And let's see if that's worth it. Well, Talia gets, after year one, $102,850. After year 5, $115,000 compared to Miguel's $110,000. And after 10 years, Talia has $132,000 compared to Miguel's $121,000. Was her 2 miles worth it, y'all? Right? So listen, when you buy your first car, when you buy your first house, when you have your first credit card, don't let somebody tell you, oh, it's around 2%. It's all the same thing. You always have to fight for the best interest rate you can. And that means if you're trying to make money and make your money grow, you fight for the highest interest rate. If you're trying to save money and make sure you're not paying somebody else a lot of interest, you fight for the lowest interest rate, even if it's all in the 2% family or in the same family. We got that? Okay, now let's talk about credit cards since we're talking about interest rates. Credit cards are the opposite of saving. Credit cards, I pay interest to the bank every time I use my credit card, right? So let's pretend for a second that you guys go to college, you go to Howard University, and during spring break, all your friends are going down to Spelman and Morehouse in Atlanta for a big spring break trip. And you're like, yo, I want to go there too. And so you get packed to go, but then you realize you don't have any money, but you do have this credit card that your mother gave you for emergencies. So now you take out your credit card, you spend $2,000 on it. You spend money for your plane ticket, some money for your new outfit, some money on your hotel when you get down there. And this credit card interest rate is at 18%. Does that sound high or low?
That's very high.
That's very high, right? But guess what? A lot of people who don't have any credit will get a first credit card at 18% interest rate. Credit cards are the highest interest rate, one of the highest interest rates types of loans that any of us can get. So you use that credit card, your 18% credit card, you spend $2,000 on your credit card, you go down to Spelman and Howard, and you have a good old time. And you're like, I love my credit card. I wouldn't have been able to go without my credit card. And you come back home and you only have a minimum payment of $10. You really like your credit card now. They're only gonna make you pay back $10 a month. This is amazing. What a great friend. And then what you realize is the total number of payments you will make is 370 months of payments or 30 years to pay off that credit card. And the total amount paid will be $6,951. So your $2,000 trip actually cost you $7,000 almost, and it took you 30 years to pay off because you had a high interest rate credit card and you only made the minimum payment every month. So what does that mean? Should you stay away from credit cards? No. But what I want every kid to do is you get your first credit card when you go to college and you only use it for the things that you need and have money to pay off at the end of the month. And what does that do? Well, you go and you buy your groceries, you pay off your groceries on that credit card, you pay off the whole bill at the end of every month. And all the credit card bureaus say, wow, that Talia is a really great person to loan money to because she pays it off every month like clockwork. And so then that impacts something called your credit score. And your credit score starts to go up because they say you're such a great credit risk. And when your credit score goes up, the higher your credit score is, the better interest rate you'll get on things like a mortgage when you want to buy a house. And we all know that the better interest rate on something really big, on a big loan payment like a house, is that better interest rate going to make a big difference for you or a small difference? What do we think? Getting a better interest rate. Huh?
A big difference.
A big difference because interest rates matter, right? So when we get our credit cards, pay them off at the end of the month, have a great credit score, and that means that you will pay low interest rates anytime you're borrowing money for the rest of your life, as long as you have a great credit score. So chapter 1 was skills. Chapter 2 was saving. Chapter 3 is investing, and let's see what Jay says. I bought some artwork for 1 million. 2 years later, it's worth 2 million. I can't wait to give it to my children. So what did Jay-Z do? He didn't walk into an art gallery and say, oh, that's dope. I think I like that. I'm gonna buy that artwork for 1 million. He bought that artwork as an investment. And he bought that artwork as an investment, meaning that he knew that it would increase in value. And that's what investments are. There are things that we put our money into that we think are going to dramatically increase in value. Dramatically being the operative word here, you guys, because you don't put your money in a savings account and think that it's going to dramatically increase in value, but investments you do. So what does investing even mean? Again, fancy definition is to use money to achieve a profit by putting it into financial instruments, shares, or property, or by using it to develop a business venture. But the bottom line is you can put your money on lots of things in order for them to be good investments. You can invest your money in real estate. I bought my house in Brooklyn 20 years ago for $500,000. It's now worth $2 million. That's a great investment. You could put your money into fine art and artwork like Jay-Z. Not just some artwork that you think is cool, but artwork that you know, oh, that artist is really popular and Oprah has a piece by that artist, and that artist is going to continue to increase in value. You can put your money in the stock market. So what does that mean? What is the stock market anyway? A lot of people talk about the stock market, but a lot of people don't necessarily know what the stock market is. Can you guys just shout out some of your favorite brands? What are your favorite brands?
I like Amazon.
Amazon, love it. What else?
Apple, Nike.
Apple, Nike. Right. So the stock market is just a collection of companies. They are Amazon, Apple, Nike, and they're called publicly traded companies because anyone in the public, that's you or me, can own a piece of those companies. It's very different than my bodega, my little store on the corner here in Brooklyn, where somebody owns that company privately. I can't go to the stock market and say, hey, I want to buy a piece of that store on the corner in Brooklyn, but I can go to the stock market and say, I want to buy a piece of Apple. I want to buy a piece of Nike. I want to buy a piece of Amazon. So the stock market is just a list of those companies and those companies that anyone in the public can invest in. And then finally, you could invest in startup companies. So when I started my company, I went to potential investors and said, hey, you should invest in my company because I think it will be worth more one day. And so those investors said, yes, Tanya, we believe in you and that you're doing great things, but we also believe that your company will increase in value and this will be a good investment. So this is what we call a blow your mind moment. Are saving and investing basically the same thing, you guys? I mean, they're both like putting money aside. Are they the same thing? What do we think? Yes or no?
I don't think so.
Okay, who said that?
Eva.
Eva, you're very, very brilliant and you are right. Let's see just how different they are though, Eva. Miguel, again, Miguel's gonna go put $100,000 of his money into a savings account and get 1% return. Again, this isn't even right because this year he would get 0.5% of return. So Miguel's gonna put $100,000 in his money for 30 years in a savings account. And I'm like, Miguel, I told you not to do that. Eva said that saving and investing are not the same thing. So Eva went and put her $100,000 into the stock market, which for the past 50 years has had an average return every year of 7%. And when I say average, that means sometimes it's gone up 10%. Sometimes it's gone down 1% during really bad years. But on average, it increases by 7% every year. Is 7% that Eva's going to get better than Miguel's 1%, y'all? What do you think?
Yes.
Right? Significantly better. And let's see how better. Miguel, after his 30 years, is going to have a whopping $106,000. What are you, Miguel, are you excited by that?
No,
30 years.
No.
He's not excited. No, he's not. Eva, on the other hand, after her 30 years, will have $761,000 that because she invested in the stock market. Eva, how you feeling about your 761?
I'm happy.
You happy, right? I would be happy too. And listen, here's the best thing. Eva didn't know anything about individual stock picking. She's like, I don't know if Apple's going to go up or if Nike's going to go up or if Amazon's going to go down. I have no idea. So Eva just bought something called a mutual fund, or she bought something called an ETF. Both of those are just a big basket of stocks. Some of them are technology stocks. Some of them are clothing stocks like Foot Locker or Macy's. Some of them are food stocks, right? Like Chipotle. So Eva just got a big basket of stocks. And because she has that big basket of stocks, it basically does kind of what the stock market does, the overall stock market, because it's just a mirror for the larger stock market. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so that's called diversification. Can you guys say that with me? Diversification.
Diversification.
Diversification. And that's what Eva did. She bought a diversified portfolio of stocks, a whole bunch of stocks from a whole bunch of different industries. And on average, it did the same thing every year for Eva that the larger stock market did. And she had $760,000 by the end of her 30 years. I am so sorry, Miguel. I am so happy for Eva, though. So now we're going to have a second blow your mind moment. Let's see. Which investment plan is going to make more money? So we're going to take, Miguel again. No, hold on. I'm not taking Miguel. Let me see. Tiffany, are you on here? Tiffany White?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Tiffany, and we're going to take Joaquina. Joaquina, are you on here?
Gets on her belly and dives underneath the bars.
Uh-oh, somebody go on mute. Washington, are you on here?
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right, Washington. Oh, man. Hold on, I want to go back. I'm trying to go back.
Joaquina's here.
Oh, Joaquina's here. Okay, great. All right, so we're going to go with Tiffany and Joaquina because that's who I called first. Okay, so I got to go back. Hold on. All right, there we go. So Tiffany said, you know what? I listened to Miss Tanya the minute we got off this phone. I went and invested $5,000 a year for 10 years. And the average I got, because I invested again in a mutual fund or an ETF, the average I got was about 7% return every year. So that's what Tiffany did. And she said, I'm going to invest $5,000 a year. Joaquina was like, okay, I understand that you're doing that, but I have 5 more years where I kind of want to live it up. And I'm going to start investing in year 6. But I'm going to invest $10,000 a year because I know I'm getting a promotion. So I'm going to invest in year 6, $10,000 a year for only 5 years. So we'll invest the same amount and we'll have the same amount at the end. So what do we think? Who has more at the end of this? Does Tiffany, investment plan A, have more? Or does Joaquina have more with investment plan B?
I think investment plan B probably has more.
You think investment plan B has more? Okay. And anybody think investment plan A has more?
I think A would have more because it's it's longer. It's 10 years.
All right, well, let's see.
I think A too.
You think A too? Okay, well, let's see. Tiffany, after her 10 years, she invested $50,000 total, $5,000 a year for 10 years. Tiffany has, boom, 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 $78,918. Now, remember, you guys, she only invested 50 and she has almost 79. Let's see what Joaquina has. Joaquina was like, I'm going to invest 52, but she waited. Joaquina has 71. Because guess what? Remember my example of compound interest and how the money just keeps growing and growing and growing because it's building off of the money that you already have there. And the more time your money has to grow, the more interest you will have. So the time value of money is so important, you guys. The minute you can start investing, start investing. It doesn't matter how much or how little. You start investing whatever you can because the earlier you invest, the more money you're going to have at the end of the day. Everybody get that?
Yeah.
Perfect. When I say Nike, what do you think?
Sportswear.
Okay, great. You think that? That's what my son thinks too. Next time I say Nike, this is what I want everybody on this call to think about. I want you to think about the Nike headquarters. And here's why. Back in 1980, you could have bought a pair of Nike shoes for $35. You could have bought Nike stock for 18 cents. So let's just say that you spent your $35 on Nike stock instead of the Nike shoes. What do you think would be a better investment? The shoes or the stock?
The stock.
The stock.
Let's see how much better. The value of your shoes by 2018 would have been $0. Don't nobody want your old smelly shoes. But the value of your stock would have been $1.82 million with just a $35 investment in Nike 40 years ago. So which one was better?
The stock.
The stock. So kids, the next time you ask your parents to buy you a pair of Nike sneakers, I want you to also ask them to buy you a share of Nike stock, or even a partial share of Nike stock. The things that we buy are not going to make us rich. Saving is not going to make us rich. It is the first step to investing. We have to save before we can invest. But investing is how we are going to build wealth in our community. Does that make sense? All right, we're going to play this game really, really quickly because we're running out of time and I want us to play it. So I want you to all look at this list of stocks. Pretend that it's 2009 and I gave you $1,000. And you could spend that $1,000 in $100 increments on any of these stocks you want to. You could spend all 1,000 on McDonald's, 500 on McDonald's, 500 on Disney, 100 on each of the stocks, whatever you want to do. Somebody tell me how you would spend your $1,000. Anybody?
I would definitely do Netflix, Amazon, and Microsoft.
Netflix, Amazon, and Microsoft. Okay, cool. Anybody else?
Can I do it all?
Yep.
I would do it all.
You would do it all in what?
Like, I would take, like, what you said, remember that one you said that you can invest in all multiple ones?
Oh, you're saying you would invest in like a mutual fund. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Very good. Or you could put $100 in each of these stocks. Yep. Okay, good.
I would also invest in
Go
all
ahead.
the stocks and diversify.
You would invest in all the stocks and diversify. I love y'all. Good, good, good. Okay, let's find out what each of these stocks did. McDonald's, it started at $42. 10 years later, it was at $191. That's 5 times your money. Who's happy with that? I'm pretty happy with that. Y'all happy with that? 5 times?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm happy. Absolutely. Disney went from $21 up to $123, 6 times your money. Microsoft, $18 to $119, 10 times your money. Under Armour went from $2.88 up to $22, 11 times your money. Netflix went from $6.32 up to $355. That's 60 times your money. Gap went from $13 up to $23. That's almost twice your money, which is still really good. Amazon went from $87 up to $1,778. That's about 20 times your money if you invested in Amazon. Macy's went from $10 up to $23. Foot Locker went from $8 to $54, which is about 7 times your money. Ford went from $4 to $9.27, which is more than twice your money, which again, I would be happy with. More than twice my money in that period of time. So let me tell you what this teaches us, you guys. For the lovely lady who said I would have invested in Microsoft and Netflix and Amazon, super smart, because you can look back these last 10 years and say, I know that those companies have done extraordinarily well. But the only problem with that is that now you have the benefit of hindsight. In 2009, what you didn't know is whether or not the technology stocks would have another big plummet like they did when I lost $1 million. And that's why diversification is so important, because we can look back and see what happened, but we can't tell what's going to happen in the future. So if you put all your money in one stock, or even all your money in one industry, like all your money in tech, or all your money in cars and automotive, or all your money in retail stores, or all your money in food, you are placing a big risky bet that that entire industry doesn't collapse at some point and you lose all your money. But if you diversify and put a little bit of money in each one of these, would we still have been happy with the outcome? We got some of Netflix and they're 60 times gain, but we got some of Disney and they're 6 times gain, and some of McDonald's and they're 5 times gain. Would we still have been happy at the end of the 10 years, guys?
I would.
Absolutely. And you wouldn't have had that big risk of me who lost $1 million by having all my money in one stock or one industry. Does that make sense?
That's like, you know how they said back in the day, they used to take the bed and put the money inside the bed and it was a fire, and now they don't have no money.
Exactly. Precisely. It's the same thing. It's the stock market equivalent of putting your money in the bed. You just put your money in one stock and it had a fire. Right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does diversification allows you to compensate? For example, if one stock does bad, you have the compensation on the other stocks that are thriving.
So super smart. That's exactly what diversification allows for. So if the technology sector goes down, but you still have, cars as a stock, and energy companies that have, that you own, and all of these other industries. Just because something happens to one industry and that goes down, it doesn't necessarily mean that the whole market goes down. And again, one of the good things about investing for the long term is even in those years where the market has gone down a lot, guess what all the rich people did? They were like, whoa, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to go buy more up because the market is bound to go up now that it's, gone down significantly. If I'm buying more now and holding it over the next 10 years, it's bound to go up over the next 10 years. So yes, diversification helps you so that if one of your stocks or one industry goes down, other stocks and other industries can go up. Does that all make sense? Hopefully that's a yes.
Yes, thank you.
Of course. Can I be a millionaire? Look, every one of your kids should be a millionaire. You got to make sure that every one of your kids sees this presentation, and it only takes $30 a day. When they get their first job, I guarantee if they make the right decisions, don't buy a new car, go buy a used car. Don't go live in, an expensive penthouse in downtown Chicago. Go find a 2-family house and share it with some friends, or buy it with some friends and rent out one half of it while you live on the other half of it with your friends, right? If they make those kinds of decisions and they take $30 a day and invest it in the stock market, over a period of 30 years, they'll have $1 million just with that $30 a day. Now, they can do plenty of other things too, right? But that's just one path to being a millionaire. Just invest early and invest consistently. Chapter 4, ownership. So we already said you got to have skills in order to make money. You have to save some of that money. Saving isn't good enough. You've got to invest some. But listen, what the true holy grail is ownership. Because if we own things in our communities, if we own things as families, then we have the ability to create wealth and our own destiny as a community. So Jay-Z said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, right? And what Jay-Z meant was, look, I don't work for somebody else where I say, oh yeah, I'm a businessman for a living. Jay-Z says, I am the business, I own the business. So what is ownership? Ownership is when you don't have to show up any place because you own the thing and it's making money while you are asleep on your couch. That's called passive income, as opposed to active income, where you and I have to show up from 9 to 5 every day and work somewhere in order to make money. If you own something, then that thing is making money whether or not you are there because you're a partial owner in that. So Kanye is not showing up at Yeezys every day, but he's making $65 million a year off of Yeezys. This gentleman owns an Esso gas station. My apologies for the white part not coming up. He's making $67,000 per gas station every year, even if he has another job working at UPS. This woman, Rihanna, who we all know, but have not seen in concert for a minute, is because she doesn't need to do any concerts. She's making $70 million a year from Fenty Beauty. And this gentleman owns a Chick-fil-A restaurant and makes $100,000 per restaurant, even if he, does something else in his day job. So ownership is how we build wealth, even if we are not there actively doing anything with that company. It is passive income, and we should be encouraging our children, no matter what they want to do in their day job, to always look for passive income streams, to own things, to invest their money and have their money working for them. That's the important knowledge for us to pass on to our children. So how can you own your own business? Well, you can start a business like I did. You can buy a business like Jay-Z did. He bought Tidal, the streaming service, and he actually made it worth more money after he bought it. You can franchise a business, which means you say, hey, there are no McDonald's in my neighborhood. I'm going to go to the McDonald's corporate office and say, I want to open up a McDonald's. I'll pay you a franchise fee every year to open that McDonald's. That may be $15,000 a year or $20,000 a year, but then I'm going to keep all of the profit on top of that for myself. That's what franchising is. Or you can invest in a business. There are many people who invested in my business, and they're part owners of my business. This is my business. My business is called Goalsetter, and it is a savings and financial education and smart spending platform created especially for kids. Why did I create this business? I created this business because I knew that Black and brown kids in particular are not taught about money. And we are never going to be wealthy as communities unless we are taught about money from early ages. And so that's what we are pledging to do. We're going to make sure that by the time your kids leave your house when they're 18, they're going to know everything that I just explained to you and then some. They are going to be well prepared and on their way to financial freedom. So we let kids sign up to save for goals, big or small, short-term or long-term, don't care what they're saving for as long as they're saving. Because when your kid is saving for something, they are practicing savings muscles of delayed gratification, meaning you don't get what you want every time you say you want it. You have to work for something. They are practicing that muscle of, I'm going to give up small things to save for something larger. They're practicing the muscle of, I'm going to be goal-oriented, which is super important. So we let them sign up to save for goals, big or small, short-term or long-term, or they can just save for the purposes of having a savings account. Family members and friends can then gift them goal cards instead of gift cards on birthdays and holidays. So kids get real money towards real dreams in a real FDIC insured account. Instead of your kids getting 10 different gift cards to 10 different places with $20 each, where they are now running around spending money at Target, spending money on Amazon. They didn't even want those things, but they're spending money there because they got the gift cards. Let us not turn our children into the next generation of consumers when we can turn our children into the next generation of savers and investors. Parents can use Goalsetter to save on your own too. You can connect your bank account to Goalsetter and round up every one of your debit card purchases so that you save that change. Or you can auto save every week or every month to help your kids with their goals, whether that's college or to help you with your goals too. Whether that's your own emergency fund or a family vacation once COVID stops. So it becomes very easy for parents to save. And guess what? We even have a feature called Family Circle, where you can invite auntie, grandma, uncle to all connect their debit cards. And when they swipe, they can contribute money to their favorite kids' college fund or robotics camp this summer. They can contribute money to your kids' goals too. Kids can earn their own money with Goalsetter's allowance features. So we have the ability for them to do chores and earn money from their parents based on doing those chores. But what we really love is that we have a set of financial literacy quizzes from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, mapped to national financial literacy standards put out by jumpstart.org. So kids are learning real things. In kindergarten, they're learning needs versus wants. In 11th grade, they're learning APY versus APR. But they're doing it all through the lens of hip hop artists, social media influencers, YouTube personalities. So when Beyonce says, can you pay my bills? Can you pay my telephone bills? We use that to explain Beyonce wouldn't need anyone to pay her bills if she would just save for an emergency fund. She could pay for her own bills. And an emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your expenses. And that's how we explain emergency fund. We have a quote over here from Chance the Rapper using Chance the Rapper lyrics. We use Jay-Z lyrics. We use all of the same concepts that I've talked to you about today, but we put them in this fun app that your kids can use to take a quiz every single week. We even have a great debit card for your kids or teens or tweens. It's called the Cashola card. Yes, it comes in red, black, and green, but it also comes with a rule called learn before you burn. So on Sunday morning, your kid's debit card will automatically freeze if they haven't taken their financial literacy quiz for the week yet, when you turn on this rule. And once the minute they take their quiz, that card will unfreeze again. So we are ensuring that our children are learning about saving and investing and not just spending. So I'm going to share with you this one last blow your mind moment. Jay-Z has officially made it to billionaire status. What percentage of his money came from rapping? Who wants to guess?
5.
20.
I love those guesses, because that means that you all learned something today. It definitely wasn't 75. It definitely wasn't 50. It was 20. And what that means is you don't have to be a great rapper to be a billionaire. All you have to do is realize that whatever you do for your day job, you're going to use that money to invest. You're going to use that money to own things, and you are going to let those passive streams of income continue to grow and make you more money so that you can make it to millionaire and even billionaire status yourselves. And so whatever you want to do, whether you want to be an artist, whether you want to be a mathematician, a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, anything you want to do, that is your day job. Your night job is making sure that you invest and own so that you can grow your wealth and build more wealth for your family and for our community. So that is all I have right now, good people. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I'm sorry I went a few minutes over. I hope this was valuable, and I'll just ask if there are any questions.
Is there a monthly fee for your card?
There is not a monthly fee for a card. It's pay what you think is fair. Our hope is that folks who can afford to pay will pay us something monthly, and folks who can't afford to pay will still be using Goalsetter, because we need everyone using Goalsetter and for us to collectively get ahead.
Is there a option to use Goalsetter for multiple children? Like if you say I have 4 children?
Absolutely. You can use Goalsetter for multiple children. And the beautiful thing about Goalsetter is once the rest of your family downloads Goalsetter too, they can literally use it with your children like Cash App, but way better. Because on your kids' birthdays and holidays, they can just go to their Goalsetter app and send your kid money, but it will say, do you want to wrap it? And grandma can say, yes, I want to wrap it. She can upload a photo, a video, or a GIF. She can choose a card. She can send it off to your kid. When your kid gets it, confetti flies down, the card opens up. They see grandma's video saying, hey, baby, I'm sorry I couldn't be there for your birthday, but here's $50 towards your dreams. And they get money right there in their savings account.
So while we're there on the topic of Gold Card, I just want to pause for a moment, say thank you to everyone for joining. You all will be receiving a seed savings amount. So there will be a gift involved to start your child's savings account on behalf of the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation and Ms. Kimberly Lloyd there with OARC. So please be on the lookout for an email from Principal McFarland. I think it's 3 questions. There's a brief survey that you'll receive that will allow us to capture your email address, which is how we will deploy that Gold Card to you. So your administrator's Principal McFarland has my information. If you all have any questions or concerns or need any account specific help through the download process, we do have a customer happiness team that's happy to help you with that. So if there are any other questions, please, I just wanted to jump in there while we were on the topic of Gold Card.
Yes, many thanks to Goalsetter, many thanks to ORC, and especially the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation for bringing all this together in the first place. It is no stretch to say, without the concepts presented here, I would not be sitting here on this call. I would not have had the financial flexibility and freedom to follow my dreams, and that happens way too often for people that look like me. So let's be very clear and purposeful and intentional about following the Goalsetter mission. to add 1 million savings accounts in the city of Philadelphia and Parkway Northwest High School, in our families and beyond, to close the wealth gap. And thank you to Goalsetter for helping us do it. So that is the goal this month, to get approximately 75% of our school linked up with this effort by the end of April during Financial Literacy Month. That's the deal.
Awesome.
Well,
Love
thank
it.
you all again for being here. For those of you that may have friends or even family that were not able to attend, please let them know that this recording will live. Principal McFarland will receive it after this call, and there will also be other orientation sessions on dates to come. So I'm happy to communicate those dates over to you all. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to pause the recording. If anyone has any other questions, we'll be here for just a moment. It is dinner time, so I'm sure we're all ready to get to our families, but we will be here for just a moment.
I have one question. Do you guys offer